What is your general opinion of U.S.-China relations today?
For general opinion, I would say, it's sort of like smiles with like gritted teeth. I would say as like a metaphor. I think they're under the guise of like they need to be like trading partners. They have like similar interests in trading, but besides that, they definitely are not fans of each other and are at each other's throats.
To preface, like Jacob, pretty liberal environment, being in, very urban Charlotte, North Carolina. Beyond that, the debate circles that I'm within definitely fearmonger relations between China and the US, that it's an us versus them, this really large sectionalist divide, that it's, the US's way or China's way, and there's no real in between. And I think that that's definitely developed a notion that there isn't really opportunity for resolution, for change that's beneficial, and that these are two competing parties at complete and utter odds from each other, and that they are at opposite ends of the spectrum, and that they will continue to remain there.
My general opinion, it's honestly very complicated. Obviously, being somebody that's in debate, especially in public forum, I actually have kind of a different answer than theirs. I think that it's been more pinned as not that they like each other, but actually the opposite, that they're competing powers and that one always has to be better than the other to be like the global superpower in terms of things like the economy and, who they're allies with and things like that. So, I think kind of makes a really complicated relationship between the two. But I can agree with them a little bit where now they're maybe trying to pouch those relations, at least perceptually, to the public. And the question of is it actually do they actually have good intentions behind it? Are they self-interested to build their own economy back up? That's a question I don't really know, but definitely perceptually it seems like they're trying to make a better image for the past kind of tense relationship that they had going on. So yeah.
What do you think was the main purpose of Trump's visit to China?
You see, I don't really if we're talking about actual besides the important blank pays blank stuff. I mean, I get it's a general tariffs and taxes discussion between the two. Is my idea, I bet.
And what do you think was the main purpose of Trump's visit to China?
I think it was twofold. I think one, it was placation of the rest of the global world and of American citizens, in the sense that Donald Trump is absolutely slipping away in the current political system of the United States, that he's losing more and more supporters. He's losing more supporters in government and in terms of his constituents. And he's slowly losing that grip on the nation that he needs to get back. And through his through his long-term implementation of these tariffs, that it's further and further pushing these people away. And by attempting to build back some of these bridges, both visually on an international stage and with his own constituents, I think he's attempting to make a move back into their good graces.
What do you think was the main purpose of Trump's visit to China?
Kind of like Zach was saying, I think when Trump was running for office and he was beginning his campaign, one of the biggest things he was talking about doing is the big thing was no new wars, and we're gonna create, obviously we didn't see that one through, but the idea was that, if you vote for Trump, you're gonna get all these good benefits, but also we're not gonna have any other conflicts with any other nations, we're gonna be cool with them. So I feel regardless of how much Trump wants the US to be better than China, because we can even see the embedded anti-China rhetoric in our own government, where when they were trying to ban TikTok, the US senators asking can TikTok see what's happening in your brain or whatever. There's just the idea that they're always competing with each other. So I okay, yeah. So just once again, I think the main purpose was for perceptual relations to be better and be boosted in order for A, Trump to get a better image on one of his campaign promises, and B, like Zach said, like you never want to stop your enemy when they're making a mistake on China's end. So of course, if they can get more trade with the US, that's going to help their own economy and boost their images, then they're going to do that.
How would you describe the overall outcome of this visit? Do you think it was successful or not?
I mean, you know, I think they came to a conclusion, and, you know, I think that's fine.
Okay. Who do you think benefited more, the US or China?
Yeah, again, I mean, like, I don't really know, like, you know, what they actually discussed in there, but, like, I'm assuming it was a mutual positive. I mean, like, if I'm gonna suggest anything, you know, visitor to the hometown, it's probably in the home's ball field.
I think for the United States, no, probably not. For the most part, things were unresolved. Things left more questions than answers, and while it might have started the ball rolling, the ball still needs a whole lot more effort to get going. I think for China, it's giving them more political power in the sense that while they did invite Trump also showed up, like Jacob said, you know, the ball is in their court, and the adage that I've seen thrown around is to never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. China at this point is almost goading the United States into more and more provocative actions on an international level and in relations between both nations. So I think for China, it's a success for them. For the United States, it's not a success at all. And for the people caught in between, I guess we'll see.
How would you describe the overall outcome of the visit? Was it successful or not?
Just like looking in the news, it seems like I think the whole idea was, like I've been saying, to like end the drama and the tension that's happening in between them. But at the same time, I feel like one handshake and like a visit to China isn't gonna solve like the decades of tension that's been building on each other. And like also like we can see that Putin is coming to China now because Putin needs help. But then it brings in the question of now where does the US stand, because China wants to be friends with Russia and the US wants to be like, I guess Trump wants to kind of be like, not, he doesn't want to be like on bad tenses with Russia, but he doesn't exactly want to be friends with Putin. So it kind of puts that relationship in sort of a awkward place on like the long-term success of trying to fix things with that. So I think like maybe it had like once again some perceptual gains, but long-term success I think is more has to be done if they want to achieve that.
Who do you think benefited more from this visit, the US or China?
Honestly, I think China did, because like again, like I honestly think from what I've seen, like there was some negative, like I've seen a little bit of both, some positive about it, like oh we're boosting relations, but also like some negative on the US's part that oh we shouldn't be talking to China because of, you know, like the whole Red Scare that was going on with like, once again, like people that come into China from the US are spies, like that sort of anti-rhetoric against them. Like I think it makes like it's kind of a double whammy because it's not really going to be successful for the US for like the people who do think it's going to be good, and at the same time it can even make some people feel worse about the situation because they're like, why are we talking to China if they like treat their people this way, or like these common misconceptions about the Chinese government. So it can cause people to feel a little more upset. And on the other hand, like China isn't really losing anything from gaining another ally and another trading partner, especially when they have like all their other routes that they're able to access. So I think ultimately China is probably the one benefiting a little more from this.
How was this visit perceived in your local community here?
Really what came out of it to me in my local community is it's like two opposing forces looking each other in the eye, you know. Michigan and Ohio State giving each other a handshake for the game, you know.
How was this visit perceived in your local community?
I think for the most part, it's kind of flown under the radar. I think that these discussions and these international politics aren't discussed here probably as much as they should. Not that they're outright ignored, but you know, for many people, they get their news through social media, and depending on how their social media feeds lean, they're not going to ever see these pieces of information. So for the most part, it's largely uncommented.
When I had some friends, like when they first saw it, like say, what like their immediate thought was, this isn't good. Like, why is Trump talking with like the Chinese government? Why is Trump talking with the Russian government? Like it seems like it's like maybe he's like starting to lean into the same like sort of ideologies where it's just like I don't know, like the common idea that it's like authoritarian over there, like bad government, whatever. So I think like it's a mix of both. Like I don't think there's one definitive answer of how it was perceived, at least locally. Like it's different for us because we're in debate, so like we like you know, or I guess I want to say a little more informed about the situation because we have to be. But I guess like although there was some negative, I guess I would say like mostly positive amongst us because we, regardless of like if we think it's gonna be like at least for me, I don't know if it's gonna be that successful long term, but it's baby steps, I guess. So I'm trying not to look too negatively on it, especially when there's so many negative things going on. So.
What message do you think each country was trying to convey?
Well, I mean, I think Trump's he was trying to continue like connections. You know, I want to continue trading with you. I don't want a war. That's probably what he's saying. And you know, but like he wants to keep China as an ally for like probably other like non-China and U.S. Like related, I guess, foreign affairs stuff. You know, they want to keep allies when it comes to other things.
And what message do you think each country was trying to convey?
So I think I touched on this a bit earlier. I think the United States is trying to communicate that maybe they're a bit friendlier than they have been in the past few months. And I think China is simultaneously trying to show that maybe they aren't the bad guy. That if the United States is willing to establish themselves as the proverbial bad guy by imposing these, you know, economic sanctions and tariffs on all these foreign nations, that China can kind of step into the light and say, we're the mediator, we're the people who are trying to figure out how to solve this, what's the better outcome. So you should look to us, you should favor us as opposed to the United States. And I definitely think that that's in their calculus in inviting Trump to this summit of leaders, that I think they are intentionally knowing that it paints them in a positive light, and the United States still has to come back from that.